If point M is the midpoint between the points P and Q, what are the coordinates of the missing point? So there are two different ways to answer this question. We can first use the midpoint formula itself to figure out that missing endpoint. We know the midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. That would give you the coordinates of the midpoint. But we have the coordinates of the midpoint. We know the x value is negative 8.5 and the y value is negative 9.5. We also know that the first endpoint is negative 4, 3, so that's the value of x1 and y1. So we can use the formula for the midpoint to solve for x2 and y2. If we first look at the x coordinate, we can set that x coordinate of the midpoint, negative 8.5, equal to x1, negative 4, plus x2, which we don't know, over 2. But now we can solve for x2. We'll multiply both sides by 2, which will give us negative 17 equals negative 4 plus x2. And if we add 4 to both sides, we get that x2 is equal to 13. We can do the same for the y coordinates. We know that the midpoint y coordinate is negative 9.5, so that would equal y1, which is 3, plus y2 over 2. So we can solve for y2 by multiplying both sides by 2. That would give us negative 19 plus, or negative 19 rather, equals 3 plus y2. And we'll subtract 3 from both sides to get that y2 equals negative 22. If we put both of those coordinates together, the midpoint is 13, comma, negative 22. And that was with our first method of using the midpoint formula to solve for that missing endpoint, the x2 and y2 in the formula. But we can also use a different method of using the relationship between that first point and the midpoint and using it to mirror it for the other point. For example, to go from the first endpoint to the midpoint, to go from the y value of 3 to the y value of negative 9.5, you have to subtract 12.5. So if we subtract 12.5 from the midpoint, that gives us the y value of the other endpoint of negative 22. You can also do that with the x values. If you go from the first endpoint of negative 4, that x coordinate, to then the x coordinate of negative 8.5, that is subtracting 4.5. So if we do that again, if we subtract 4.5 from the midpoint of negative 8.5, that gives us negative 13. So it gives you that same midpoint of negative 13, negative 22. It doesn't matter which method you use. That's our answer, making it choice A.